Hey everyone, welcome to another video where I sit here and ramble about the bosses from the Soulsborne series, and this time it's Dark Souls 1 under the spotlight. So, Dark Souls 1 was the first Souls game I played, and to be honest, I'm not sure whether I even liked it that much. Obviously, I've very much changed my opinion as it's become one of my favourite games of all time. Now I need to pay a bit of an homage to the first game I played and talk a bit about the bosses I find to be most challenging. A word of warning though, Bed of Chaos isn't listed here, even though he truly is one of the most frustrating fights. If you want to know my opinion on Bed of Chaos, then look no further than the Demon Souls top 5 video. He's basically hated for the same reasons I hate Dragon God. I'd only be repeating myself if I listed him here. Plus, there's simply more interesting bosses to discuss in this list. So, here we go. In at number 5 is Gravelord Nito. Gravelord Nito is actually one of the bosses I tend to dread fighting. There's not much I can say about this fight that I can enjoy or look forward to. I feel like there's just a wee bit too much stacked against you to make this fun. For starters, he isn't alone in his arena. He has his little minion skeletons that will infinitely respawn to nickel and dime away at you, sometimes pushing you into a frustrating stun lock. And not only that, but you don't dare go to the back corner of the room because that's where the bigger, tougher, meaner skeletons will aggro if you get too close. Keep Nito near the front as much as possible, which isn't always easy considering he has a particularly punishing area of effect attack that you have to stay at a fair distance if you want to avoid it. Sometimes though, it literally is just safer to take the punishment because you would rather that than having to deal with the daddy skeletons. He's also got this other really annoying attack that sends up toxic spikes that will pretty much instantly inflict toxic damage to your health. The key to dodging this is to listen out for his screams, wait a second or two and then dodge. I'm not always successful at it, I have to say. Nito isn't all bad though if you have a decent strategy and some preparation. If you go in with a divine weapon, you can kill the skeletons without them respawning. A must if you want this fight to be painless. In at number 4 is Artorius. Artorius is one of my favourites across the Soulsborne series, as he, just like Sir Alone, fits into that category of everything I love about the Souls games. He embodies everything enjoyable and tops it off with the rush of endorphins you'll feel once you defeat him. He's of a similar size to the player, so it's a true match of skill as the two of you try to outplay each other. He hasn't got any tricks up his sleeve that make him OP, and nor do you. It's just a fight to the death. I enjoy Artorius so much I spend a lot of time really learning every single move he makes in order to do a flawless victory. If I were to make a top 10 best bosses across the board, he'd undoubtedly be there, somewhere. I haven't figured out exactly where. But yeah, he's just very cool. I love the trail of the abyss gunk that follows him everywhere. Visually, he's just interesting to watch. In at number 3 is Kalameet. Kalameet, just like Artorius, comes with the DLC portion of Dark Souls. I might have some controversial opinions on Kalameet because I'm not really sure if I like him. Now, before you grab your pitchforks, just please listen to my reasons. Understand that my reasons come from a place of pure opinion, and I feel like, as a boss, Kalameet is simply not to my tastes. He doesn't particularly fit a style of boss that I like, and I'll explain why. Firstly, Kalameet is a dragon, and I'm not overly fond of the dragon fights, and this is essentially because they have wings, and so seem to escape whenever they feel like it. He also has a weird moveset. I think he moves a little too much like a robot, as if underneath his skin is some mechanical limbs, and he's just being controlled by something else. There's something odd about the way he moves. He also has a lot of health, and on my first playthrough I can remember massively struggling against Kalameet, simply because it was becoming a test of endurance. How long can you last against him without making too many mistakes and inevitably die after making one too many? These days, I usually play with either the Black Knight Halberd or the Black Knight Sword, so damage output isn't so much of an issue as it used to be. Don't get me wrong though, to be honest, the only bosses I have a passionate hatred for are Dragon God and Bed of Chaos. That's it. The rest of the bosses are either amazing, or they just exist. And I suppose Kalameet is somewhere in between. To me, he's neither amazing nor is he mediocre. Kalameet is fine as a challenge, but that's as far as it goes for me. Oh yeah, and I can't go without not mentioning the so-called reward you get for beating him. The Calamity Ring, in other words the Troll Ring, yes, you take double damage when you wear it, and that's it. A massive fuck you from the devs. In at number 2 is Manus. Manus is yet again another DLC boss, and follows the pattern FromSoft seems to do with the DLCs they make. The true difficult bosses will always await you in the DLC. Manus is no exception. Manus and the area leading up to him is probably one of the most oppressive areas they've ever done. It's the Chasm of the Abyss. It's very dark and creepy, with the floating humanities edging their way closer to you. You know you're on your way to something very scary and horrendous just by the way the Abyss has been designed. You're delving further and further down, till eventually you meet the Fog Gate. Brace yourself, Manus is the end point of the DLC, so obviously he isn't a walk in the park. It seems to me that Manus will start off with a flurry of physical attacks, and I advise people to stay in front of him. Don't bother trying to get behind him. This might work with other bosses, but with Manus I think the wiser option is to let him act out his combos, so you can attack more freely and confidently. After you've nibbed away enough of his health, he begins to do magic damage, which is where his lethality really shines. You may have been doing alright up until this point, but when the magic starts, that's when you really have to dodge both him and his magic spells. It isn't easy. There's a few different types of them too, causing various patterns for you to learn and avoid. That's Manus though, obviously he isn't easy. So in at number 1, the toughest boss in Dark Souls 1 in my opinion, is Smoren Ornstein. ONS, because of course it is. The bosses of Anor Londo. One of the best areas in the game followed by one of the best bosses. For me, I've listed them at number 1. As their name suggests, yes, there are 2 of them. I've never been particularly good at multi-target bosses, and none more so than Smoren Ornstein. It's their combination of fast and slow that makes them so difficult to cope with. Once you've kind of got one of them figured out, the other will be on your butt ready to knock you flat on your face. Never underestimate Smoren Ornstein. You can so very easily get trapped against the wall and subsequently pummeled and comboed to death. The arena is big, but not that big. So often I will get trapped against a wall thinking I've got lots of space. Smoren Ornstein are number 1 though, and it's essentially because there are 2. You're having to almost split your attention evenly between them, but slightly more to Orny because he's just that fast. Watch out for his warping glitch attacks. If you see him caught behind Smo so much that he's twitching, get ready to spam your roll button because he's about to glitch his way over to you. And that's it. Dark Souls 1 toughest bosses. Now that's me gone through all the titles, giving my thoughts on either the best and or the toughest fights respectively. What do I do now? I can make some list of the easiest, I guess? There's definitely enough material to do that. So, until next time, I'll see you then.